The rain had been falling for 3 hours straight on Interstate 40, turning the asphalt into a shimmering ribbon of grey beneath the endless procession of headlights. Marcus Webb gripped the steering wheel of his Peterbilt 389, his calloused hands steady despite the poor visibility. At 52 years old, he had driven through worse storms than this, hauling freight across 37 states for the better part of 3 decades. The CB radio crackled with chatter from other truckers, warning about a slowdown near mile marker 187, something about a jackknife trailer blocking the westbound lanes. Marcus reached for his thermos of coffee, still warm from the truck stop in Amarillo, where he had filled up 4 hours ago. The bitter liquid helped keep his eyes sharp as the wipers beat a hypnotic rhythm against the windshield. His destination was Flagstaff, Arizona, where a warehouse full of industrial equipment awaited his cargo of machine parts. If the weather held and traffic cooperated, he would make it by morning. The highway stretched before him like a dark tunnel carved through the Texas panhandle, the flat landscape offering no shelter from the wind that buffeted his trailer. Marcus had always found peace in these long hauls, the solitude giving him time to think, to remember, to forget. His ex-wife Sandra used to say he loved the road more than he loved her, and maybe she had been right. The divorce had been finalized 8 years ago, and their daughter Emily had just turned 25, living her own life in Seattle with a husband Marcus had only met twice. He thought about calling Emily when he reached Flagstaff, just to hear her voice. They talked maybe once a month now, brief conversations filled with polite questions and careful answers. The distance between them felt greater than the miles he traveled, a gap that had widened slowly over years of missed birthdays and broken promises. Marcus had always told himself there would be time to fix things, but time had a way of slipping through his fingers like sand. The truck stop at exit 56 appeared through the rain like a beacon in the darkness, its fluorescent lights casting pale pools on the wet pavement. Marcus had not planned to stop here, but his bladder had other ideas, and he figured a quick break would not hurt his schedule too badly. He guided the massive truck into the designated parking area, finding a spot near the edge of the lot where he could pull through easily when he was ready to leave. The rain had lessened slightly as Marcus climbed down from the cab, pulling his worn denim jacket tighter around his shoulders. The air smelled of diesel and wet earth, familiar scents that had become the perfume of his life. He walked quickly toward the building, his boots splashing through puddles, the cold seeping through his jeans. Inside, the truck stop was nearly empty, just a tired-looking woman behind the counter reading a magazine, and an older man in a John Deere cap nursing a cup of coffee at one of the booths. Marcus nodded to them as he made his way to the restroom, the fluorescent lights humming overhead like mechanical insects. When he emerged a few minutes later, he noticed something he had missed before. A boy sat huddled in the corner booth nearest the door, his small frame pressed against the wall as if trying to disappear into the fake wood paneling. He could not have been more than 10 or 11 years old, with dark hair plastered to his forehead and clothes that hung on him like they belonged to someone else. The boy's eyes were fixed on the door, watching each person who entered with the wary alertness of a hunted animal. Marcus hesitated, his instincts telling him something was wrong. Kids did not sit alone in truck stops at 2 in the morning, not unless something had gone terribly sideways in their young lives. He thought about minding his own business, about getting back in his truck and continuing on to Flagstaff, where nothing waited for him but an empty hotel room and another load to haul. But something in the boy's eyes stopped him, a mixture of fear and desperate hope that reminded Marcus of someone he had once known. He walked to the counter and ordered a cup of coffee and a sandwich, then carried them over to the booth where the boy sat. The kid flinched as Marcus approached, his body tensing like a coiled spring, ready to bolt. Marcus held up his hands, showing he meant no harm. "Hey there," he said, keeping his voice soft and even. "I noticed you sitting here by yourself. You hungry?" The boy did not answer right away, his dark eyes studying Marcus with an intensity that seemed too old for his young face. Finally, he gave a small nod, his gaze darting to the sandwich and then back to Marcus. "Mind if I sit down?" Marcus asked, gesturing to the opposite side of the booth. Another hesitation, longer this time, before the boy scooted further into the corner and nodded again. Marcus slid into the seat, placing the sandwich and coffee on the table between them. "Go ahead," Marcus said, pushing the food toward the boy. "I already ate a few hours back." The boy reached for the sandwich with trembling hands, unwrapping it carefully as if afraid it might disappear. He took a bite, then another, chewing quickly like someone who had not eaten in a long time. Marcus sipped his coffee and waited, giving the kid space to eat without feeling watched. "What's your name, son?" Marcus asked after a while. The boy swallowed hard, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. "Tyler," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tyler Reeves. I'm Marcus. Marcus Webb." He paused, watching the boy finish the sandwich. "Tyler, what are you doing out here by yourself in the middle of the night?" Tyler's eyes flickered to the door again, that hunted look returning. "I'm not by myself," he said, but his voice wavered, betraying the lie. "I'm waiting for someone." Marcus nodded slowly, not pushing. He had learned long ago that pushing only made people retreat further into themselves. The rain had picked up again outside, drumming against the windows like impatient fingers. "Must be hard waiting in a place like this," Marcus said carefully. "How long have you been here?" Tyler shrugged, his thin shoulders rising and falling beneath his oversized jacket. "A while," he admitted. "Since yesterday morning, I think. I lost track." Yesterday morning, Marcus felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. That was nearly 20 hours ago. A boy this young, alone in a truck stop for that long, with no one seeming to notice or care. Something was very, very wrong. "Tyler," Marcus said gently, "are you in some kind of trouble?" The boy's face crumpled slightly, his tough facade cracking to reveal the frightened child beneath. His lower lip trembled, and he bit down on it hard, trying to hold himself together. "I ran away," Tyler whispered, the words coming out in a rush. "From my foster home. They were going to send me back to him, to my mom's boyfriend. He said he was going to get custody, and I can't go back there, mister. I can't." Marcus felt his heart constrict. He knew enough about the world to understand what Tyler was not saying, the dark implications hidden behind those simple words. He had seen too many broken people in his years on the road, heard too many stories that ended in tragedy. "Where were you trying to go?" Marcus asked. Tyler looked down at the table, his fingers tracing invisible patterns on the laminate surface. "My grandma," he said softly. "She lives in California, Bakersfield. She wanted to take me when my mom died, but they said she was too old. But she's not. She's strong and she loves me, and she said she would always be there for me no matter what." California was a long way from wherever this boy had started, Marcus knew. Probably close to 1,000 miles, depending on where they were now. For a kid with no money, no resources, and no one to help him, it might as well have been the moon. "How did you get this far?" Marcus asked. Tyler hesitated, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a crumpled photograph. He handed it to Marcus, who looked at it in the harsh fluorescent light. It showed a smiling woman with grey hair and kind eyes, standing in front of a small white house with a garden full of flowers. "That's her," Tyler said. "That's my grandma. She sent me that picture for my birthday last year, along with $20 and a letter telling me to be brave. I've been saving the money ever since, just in case. I used most of it to get a bus ticket, but the bus broke down in Oklahoma City, and they said it would be a whole day before another one came. So I started walking. Then a man in a pickup gave me a ride, but he made me feel scared, so I got out when he stopped for gas. Then I walked some more until I found this place." Marcus studied the photograph, then handed it back to Tyler, who clutched it like a lifeline. The boy's story had too many holes, too many dangers that he probably did not even recognize. Hitchhiking with strangers, walking alone on highways, spending the night in truck stops. It was a miracle he had made it this far without something terrible happening. "Tyler," Marcus said carefully, Do you know how far Bakersfield is from here? The boy shook his head. Far, I know, but I have to get there. I have to. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his mind wrestling with a decision that felt both impossible and inevitable. He thought about his schedule, his responsibilities, the load of machine parts waiting to be delivered. He thought about the rules he had lived by for 30 years, the careful boundaries he had maintained to keep his life simple and uncomplicated. And then he thought about Emily, about all the times he had put the road first and his daughter second, about the distance that had grown between them like a canyon too wide to cross. Tyler looked up at him, his young face a battlefield of hope and fear. "Mister," he said, his voice trembling, "can you protect me?" The words hung in the air between them, simple and devastating. Marcus felt something shift inside him, some long dormant part of himself waking up after years of sleep. Before he could answer, the door to the truck stop burst open. A man stumbled in, his clothes disheveled and his face twisted with anger. He was maybe 40 years old, with a shaved head and tattoos climbing up his neck like dark vines. His eyes swept the room and landed on Tyler, who had gone rigid with terror. "There you are," the man snarled, striding toward the booth. "You little piece of garbage. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused?" Tyler pressed himself against the wall, tears streaming down his face. Marcus rose to his feet, positioning himself between the boy and the approaching man. "Hold on a second," Marcus said, keeping his voice calm but firm. "Who are you?" The man stopped, his bloodshot eyes narrowing. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm this kid's legal guardian, and he's coming with me right now." Marcus did not move. "Is that true, Tyler?" The boy shook his head frantically. "He's not my guardian. He's my mom's boyfriend. He hurt me. Please don't let him take me." The man's face reddened with rage. "Don't you believe a word this lying little brat says. He's always making up stories. Now step aside before I make you step aside." Marcus felt the old, familiar anger rising in his chest, the same anger that had gotten him into trouble more than once in his younger days. But he was older now, smarter. He knew that violence would only make things worse, give this man exactly the excuse he needed. "I'm not going to do that," Marcus said steadily, "and you're not taking this boy anywhere until we sort this out." The man took a step closer, his fists clenching. "You don't know what you're getting into, old man. This isn't your business." "I'm making it my business," Marcus replied. "And if you touch either of us, I'll have the police here so fast it'll make your head spin." The mention of police seemed to give the man pause. He glanced around the truck stop, noticing for the first time that the woman behind the counter had picked up the phone and was watching them with wide eyes. The old man in the John Deere cap had risen from his seat as well, his weathered face hard with disapproval. "This isn't over," the man hissed, pointing a finger at Tyler. "You can't hide forever. I'll find you." He turned and stormed out of the truck stop, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Through the glass, Marcus watched him climb into a battered grey pickup truck and peel out of the parking lot, tires screaming on the wet pavement. Marcus turned back to Tyler, who was shaking uncontrollably, tears running down his cheeks. "Hey," Marcus said softly, kneeling down to the boy's level. "He's gone. You're okay." "He'll come back," Tyler sobbed. "He always comes back. He said he'd never let me go. He said I belonged to him." The words sent a chill down Marcus's spine. He reached out and placed a gentle hand on Tyler's shoulder, feeling the boy flinch at first and then slowly relax. "Listen to me, Tyler," Marcus said firmly. "I'm not going to let him hurt you, do you understand? Not now, not ever." Tyler looked up at him, his dark eyes swimming with tears. "You mean it?" Marcus nodded. "I mean it. Now here's what we're going to do. First we're going to call the police and report what just happened. Then we're going to figure out how to get you to your grandmother safely. Okay?" Tyler wiped his nose with his sleeve, a tiny spark of hope flickering in his eyes. "Okay," he whispered. The woman behind the counter had already dialed 911, and within 15 minutes, a state trooper arrived at the truck stop. His name was Officer David Chen, a young man with a serious face and kind eyes who listened patiently as Tyler told his story, pausing often to gather himself when the memories became too painful. Marcus stood nearby, offering silent support, his own statement already given. Officer Chen had taken notes, asked questions, and made several phone calls that seemed to yield promising results. The man who had confronted them, it turned out, was named Craig Dawson, and he had a warrant out for his arrest in Oklahoma for unpaid child support and a history of domestic violence charges. He was not, and never had been, Tyler's legal guardian. The foster care system had failed Tyler badly, Officer Chen admitted as they stood by his patrol car. He was placed with a family who never should have been approved in the first place. "We're going to do everything we can to make this right." "And his grandmother?" Marcus asked. "In Bakersfield." Officer Chen nodded. "I made some calls. Helen Reeves is very much alive and very much wants her grandson. There was some miscommunication in the original custody proceedings, some paperwork that got lost or mishandled. She's been fighting to get Tyler for 2 years now. When I told her he was here and safe, she broke down crying." Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "So, what happens now?" "Well," Officer Chen said, looking at Tyler, who was sitting in the back of the patrol car wrapped in a warm blanket. "Normally, we'd place him in emergency foster care while we sort out the paperwork, but given what he's been through, and given that his grandmother has already started the emergency custody process, I think we can do better than that." He paused, then looked at Marcus with an expression that was part professional, part human. "The thing is, getting Tyler to California is complicated. Flying requires documentation and approvals we don't have time for. Driving would work, but I can't leave my jurisdiction and the system moves slowly, unless—" Marcus understood what the officer was suggesting even before he finished the sentence. The idea was crazy, irresponsible, and completely against every rule he had ever set for himself. It would mean missing his delivery deadline, maybe losing his contract, definitely complicating his life in ways he could not even imagine. He thought about Emily again, about all the times he had chosen the easy path instead of the right one. He thought about the scared little boy in the back of the patrol car who had asked him a simple question. "Can you protect me?" "I'll take him," Marcus said. "I'll take him to Bakersfield." Officer Chen studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I was hoping you'd say that. I'll need to make some calls, get some temporary authorization. It's irregular, but given the circumstances, I think we can make it work. You'll need to check in at designated points along the way, and Tyler's grandmother will need to meet you at the other end with the proper documentation." "Whatever it takes," Marcus said. It took another 2 hours to sort out the logistics, but by the time the first pale light of dawn began to paint the eastern sky, Marcus and Tyler were back in the Peterbilt, heading west on Interstate 40. The rain had finally stopped, leaving the world washed clean and glistening in the early morning light. Tyler sat in the passenger seat, his eyes wide as he took in the view from the elevated cab. He had never been in a big rig before, and despite everything he had been through, there was still enough child in him to be amazed by the rows of gauges and switches, the massive steering wheel, and the way the truck seemed to command the road like a great ship plowing through the sea. "This is really cool," Tyler said quietly, his voice still hoarse from crying. Marcus smiled. "Yeah, it is. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I still love it every single day." 30 years? Tyler's eyes went wide. "That's like forever." Marcus laughed, a genuine sound that surprised even himself. It felt good to laugh, he realized. He had not done it enough lately. "It feels like forever sometimes," he admitted. "But it's been a good life. I've seen every state in this country, met thousands of people, watched the sun rise over mountains and set over oceans. There's a lot of beauty out there, Tyler. More than you can imagine." Tyler was quiet for a moment, looking out the window at the vast Texas landscape rolling by. "My mom used to say that," he said softly. She said the world was full of beautiful things if you knew where to look. Marcus glanced at the boy, seeing the shadow of grief that crossed his young face. She sounds like she was a smart woman, he said gently. She was, Tyler said. She was the best mom in the whole world. Before she got sick, we used to go on adventures together. Just little ones, like hiking in the woods or exploring old buildings. She said every day could be an adventure if you let it. How did she pass? Marcus asked. Then quickly added, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. Tyler shook his head. It's okay, she had cancer, breast cancer they called it. She fought really hard, but it was too strong. She died when I was 8. That's when everything went bad. Marcus nodded, understanding flooding through him. 3 years ago, this boy had lost his mother and been thrown into a system that was supposed to protect him, but had failed at every turn. 3 years of grief and fear and displacement, ending with him alone in a truck stop in the middle of the night, asking a stranger for protection. I'm sorry, Tyler, Marcus said. That's not fair. None of what happened to you is fair. Tyler shrugged, a gesture that seemed too world-weary for his age. My grandma says life isn't fair, but that doesn't mean we get to give up. She says we have to keep fighting, even when it's hard. Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. She is, Tyler said, and for the first time since Marcus had met him, a genuine smile crossed the boy's face. She makes the best chocolate chip cookies in the world, and she has a garden with tomatoes and peppers and these really cool sunflowers that are taller than me. She said, when I come to live with her, she'll teach me how to grow things. That sounds wonderful, Marcus said, meaning it. They drove in companionable silence for a while, the miles disappearing beneath the truck's wheels as the sun climbed higher in the sky. Marcus had called his dispatcher to explain the situation, and to his surprise, the company had been understanding. They would find another driver to pick up the Flagstaff delivery, and Marcus would not be penalized for the delay. It turned out there was still some humanity left in the corporate world after all. Around mid-morning, they crossed into New Mexico, the landscape shifting from flat prairie to rolling hills dotted with scrubby vegetation. The sky had cleared completely, revealing a brilliant blue expanse that seemed to stretch to infinity. Tyler had fallen asleep in the passenger seat, his head resting against the window, his face relaxed for the first time since Marcus had met him. In sleep, he looked even younger. The worry lines that had creased his forehead smoothed away, leaving only the innocent features of a child who should have been playing video games and riding bicycles instead of running for his life. Marcus drove on, his mind wandering through memories and regrets. He thought about the choices that had led him here, to this moment, to this responsibility he had never expected to bear. He thought about Sandra, about how she had begged him to slow down, to be present, to choose family over freight. He'd thought about Emily, about the birthday parties he had missed, the school plays he had never seen, the father-daughter dances he had skipped because there was always another load to haul, always another mile to drive. His phone buzzed with a text message. He glanced at it quickly, keeping most of his attention on the road. It was from Emily. Dad, I heard what you're doing. I'm so proud of you. Call me when you can. Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. He could not remember the last time Emily had said she was proud of him. He had spent so many years disappointing her, failing her, that he had almost convinced himself she had given up on him entirely. He would call her tonight, he decided, really call her, not just the usual 5-minute check-in that left them both feeling empty. He would tell her how sorry he was for all the times he had let her down. He would ask about her life, her husband, her dreams. He would be the father he should have been all along. Tyler stirred in the passenger seat, yawning and rubbing his eyes. Are we there yet? He asked, a hint of the child he still was showing through his exhaustion. Marcus smiled. Not yet, buddy. We've still got a long way to go, but we're making good time. I dreamed about my mom, Tyler said quietly, looking out the window at the passing desert. She was holding my hand and telling me everything was going to be okay. Do you think that means something? Marcus considered the question carefully. "I think," he said slowly, "that our minds have a way of giving us what we need when we need it most. Your mom loved you more than anything. That love doesn't just disappear because she's gone. It stays with you, part of who you are." Tyler nodded, seeming to accept this. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you have kids?" Marcus felt the familiar ache in his chest. "I do. A daughter. Her name is Emily." "Where is she?" "Seattle. She's married now, has a good life." "Do you miss her?" The question cut deeper than Tyler probably intended. "Every single day," Marcus admitted. "I wasn't a very good father, Tyler. I spent too much time on the road and not enough time being there for her. By the time I realized what I was missing, it was almost too late." Tyler was quiet for a moment. "But you're going to fix it, right? That's what you're supposed to do when you mess up." "My mom said everyone makes mistakes, but what matters is what you do after." Marcus looked at the boy, struck by the simple wisdom in his words. "You're absolutely right," he said. "That's exactly what I'm going to do." They stopped for lunch at a small diner in Gallup, a weathered establishment that had clearly been serving truckers and travelers for decades. The walls were covered with photographs of famous visitors and local characters, and the air smelled of coffee and fried onions. Tyler devoured a cheeseburger and fries with the appetite of a growing boy who had not had a proper meal in days. Marcus watched him eat, feeling a protective instinct that surprised him with its intensity. In just a few hours, this child had become important to him in ways he could not fully explain. "Mr. Marcus?" Tyler said between bites. "You can just call me Marcus," Marcus replied with a smile. "Marcus," Tyler corrected himself. "What's going to happen when we get to California?" "Well," Marcus said, "your grandmother is going to meet us there. She's been working with the police and the courts to get emergency custody. From what Officer Chen said, it's just a matter of paperwork now. You'll get to stay with her while they sort everything out officially." "And Craig?" Tyler's voice trembled slightly on the name. "Will he go to jail?" Marcus nodded firmly. "He will. He's got warrants out for his arrest already, and after what happened last night, they're adding more charges. He won't be able to hurt you again, Tyler. I promise." Tyler's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Good. I hope he never gets out." Marcus did not respond, but inwardly he shared the sentiment. He had seen evil in the world, had encountered it in truck stops and rest areas and lonely stretches of highway, but there was something particularly vile about a man who would prey on a child, who would use his position of power to inflict pain on someone small and defenseless. After lunch, they continued west, crossing into Arizona as the afternoon sun painted the desert in shades of orange and gold. The landscape was breathtaking, with towering rock formations and endless vistas that made Marcus feel small and insignificant in the best possible way. Tyler pressed his face against the window, drinking in the scenery. "I've never seen anything like this," he breathed. "Pretty amazing, isn't it?" Marcus agreed. "This is why I love this job. Every day I get to see God's canvas. My mom would have loved this," Tyler said softly. "She always wanted to see the Grand Canyon." Marcus made a mental note. The Grand Canyon was not far out of their way, and they had some time to spare. Maybe, just maybe, he could give this boy something good to remember from this journey. They drove until evening, stopping for the night at a truck stop outside Kingman. It was not the Grand Canyon, but it would have to wait for morning. Marcus had driven too many miles to push on safely, and Tyler needed rest. The truck stop had shower facilities, and Marcus paid for them both to clean up. Watching Tyler emerge from the shower with wet hair and slightly less haunted eyes, Marcus felt a small sense of accomplishment. They were making progress, not just in miles, but in healing. They ate dinner at the truck stop restaurant, a simple meal of meatloaf and mashed potatoes that tasted better than it had any right to. Tyler talked more freely now, sharing stories about his mother, his grandmother, his life before everything went wrong. "She taught me to read when I was 4, Tyler said proudly. "I could read chapter books by the time I started kindergarten. All the other kids were still learning their letters, but I was reading Harry Potter." Marcus smiled. "You must be pretty smart." Tyler shrugged. I guess. School wasn't my favorite thing, but I liked books. Books can take you anywhere. That's what my mum always said. She was right, Marcus agreed. I've got a whole collection of audiobooks in my truck. Helps pass the time on long hauls. Maybe I can introduce you to some of them. They retired to the truck for the night, Tyler taking the sleeping berth behind the cab, while Marcus reclined in the driver's seat. It was not the most comfortable arrangement, but Marcus had slept in worse conditions. The important thing was that Tyler felt safe, and from the soft, even breathing that soon filled the cab, it seemed he did. Marcus lay awake for a while, staring at the ceiling and thinking about everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. His life had been turned upside down by a chance encounter with a frightened boy in a truck stop. He had made promises he was not entirely sure he could keep. He had put his job, his routine, his carefully constructed existence at risk for a child he had only just met. And yet, for the first time in years, he felt like he was doing something that mattered, not just hauling freight from point A to point B, but actually making a difference in someone's life. It was a strange and wonderful feeling, one he had forgotten existed. His phone buzzed with a text. It was from Officer Chen. Checked in with California authorities. Everything is on track. Tyler's grandmother has temporary custody approved. She'll meet you at the Bakersfield police station tomorrow afternoon. Keep up the good work. Marcus typed a quick reply, then closed his eyes and let sleep take him. Morning came bright and clear, the Arizona sun flooding the truck stop with golden light. Marcus woke to find Tyler already awake, sitting in the passenger seat and watching the sunrise through the windshield. "Good morning," Marcus said, stretching his stiff muscles. "How'd you sleep?" "Better than I have in a long time," Tyler admitted. "I didn't have any nightmares." "That's good. You ready for the last leg of our journey?" Tyler nodded, but there was something hesitant in his expression. "Marcus." "Yeah? What happens after? I mean, after I'm with my grandma and everything settles down. Will I ever see you again?" The question caught Marcus off guard. He had not thought that far ahead, had not considered what would happen once Tyler was safely delivered to his grandmother. The logical answer was no, of course not. Marcus was a truck driver, constantly on the move. Tyler was a child who needed stability, not more transience. But looking into the boy's hopeful eyes, Marcus found himself unwilling to give the logical answer. "I tell you what," he said slowly, "I drive through California pretty regularly. When I do, I'll give you a call. Maybe we can meet up, grab a burger, you can tell me how school's going. How does that sound?" Tyler's face lit up. "Really? You mean it?" "I mean it," Marcus said, surprised to find that he actually did. "We're friends now, Tyler. That doesn't just go away because you're in one place and I'm in another." The boy's smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Thanks, Marcus, for everything." They hit the road after a quick breakfast, pointing the Peterbilt west toward the California border. But before they reached it, Marcus made a detour north, toward a canyon that had been carved by millions of years of water and time. "Where are we going?" Tyler asked, noticing the change in direction. "You'll see," Marcus replied with a mysterious smile. The Grand Canyon appeared before them like a wound in the earth, vast and ancient and utterly breathtaking. Tyler's jaw dropped as they stood at the south rim overlook, looking out over layers of red and gold rock that told the story of eons. "This is incredible," Tyler whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I can't believe I'm really here." Marcus stood beside him, feeling the same awe he had felt the first time he had seen this place, decades ago. "Your mom would have loved this," he said softly. "And somehow, I think she knows you're here." Tyler nodded, unable to speak. He stood at the railing for a long time, drinking in the view, saying goodbye to his mother in a way he had never been able to before. Marcus gave him the space he needed, understanding that some moments were too sacred for words. When Tyler finally turned away from the canyon, his face was different. Still sad, still scarred by everything he had been through, but there was a new strength there too, a resolve that had not been there before. "I'm ready," he said. "I'm ready to go to Grandma's." They crossed into California in the early afternoon, the landscape shifting from desert to farmland as they descended toward the Central Valley. The temperature dropped, the air grew clearer, and Tyler's excitement became palpable. "We're almost there," he kept saying, bouncing in his seat. "We're really almost there." Marcus felt his own anticipation building. He had never met Helen Reeves, but he felt like he knew her through Tyler's stories. A strong woman who had raised a daughter alone, who had watched that daughter die too young, who had fought for 2 years to bring her grandson home. He hoped she would be everything Tyler needed. The Bakersfield police station appeared before them like a finish line, and Marcus pulled the truck into the parking lot with a mixture of relief and sadness. The journey was ending, and despite everything, part of him did not want it to. A small crowd waited by the station entrance. Marcus recognized Officer Chen, who had driven out from Texas to see this through. There was a woman from Child Protective Services holding a folder of paperwork, and there, standing slightly apart from the others, was an elderly woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Tyler was out of the truck before it had fully stopped, racing across the parking lot with his arms outstretched. The woman met him halfway, catching him in an embrace that looked like it might never end. Marcus climbed down from the cab more slowly, giving them their moment. He watched as Tyler sobbed into his grandmother's shoulder, as she stroked his hair and whispered words only he could hear. It was the most beautiful thing Marcus had seen in years. Eventually, Helen Reeves looked up, her eyes finding Marcus across the parking lot. Still holding Tyler tightly, she walked toward him, tears streaming down her weathered face. "You must be Marcus," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you for bringing my boy home." Marcus shook his head. "No thanks needed, Mom. Tyler's a special kid. I'm just glad I could help." Helen reached out and grasped his hand, squeezing it with surprising strength. "You saved his life," she said. "Don't you ever forget that. You gave him back to me when I thought I'd lost everything." Marcus felt his own eyes growing wet. "You just take good care of him," he said. "That's all the thanks I need." The paperwork took about an hour. Forms and signatures and official stamps that seemed endless but were necessary to make everything legal. Tyler stayed by his grandmother's side the entire time, never letting go of her hand. When it was finally done, they walked out of the police station together into the golden California afternoon. Tyler turned to Marcus one last time. "You'll really call?" he asked. Marcus nodded. "I'll really call, and you can call me too anytime you need to talk. My number's in your phone." Tyler surprised him with a fierce hug, wrapping his thin arms around Marcus's waist and holding on tight. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for protecting me." Marcus hugged him back, feeling something break loose in his chest. "Always, buddy, always." He watched them drive away, Tyler waving from the back window until the car disappeared around a corner. Then Marcus stood alone in the parking lot, feeling the weight of the last few days settle over him like a blanket. His phone rang. It was Emily. "Dad?" Her voice was uncertain, hopeful. "Are you okay?" Marcus smiled, feeling tears roll down his cheeks. "Yeah, honey," he said. "I'm okay, better than okay, actually. Listen, I've got some time before my next haul. I was thinking maybe I could drive up to Seattle. See you, meet your husband properly, if that's something you'd want." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Dad?" Emily said, her voice breaking. "I'd love that. I'd really love that." They talked for an hour, the longest conversation they had had in years. Marcus told her about Tyler, about the journey, about the realizations he had come to in the cab of his truck. Emily told him about her life, her struggles, her hopes. For the first time in a decade, they felt like father and daughter again. When he finally hung up, Marcus climbed back into his Peterbilt and started the engine. The road stretched before him, same as it always had. But something was different now. He was different. He thought about Tyler, about the courage it had taken for that boy to ask a stranger for protection. He thought about Helen, about the fierce love that had kept her fighting for 2 years. He thought about Emily, about the second chance he had been given. Life was not fair. Tyler's grandmother was right about that. But sometimes, when you least expected it, it gave you exactly what you needed. A chance encounter, a moment of grace, a scared little boy who looked up at you with desperate eyes and asked if you could protect him. Marcus pointed the truck north, toward Seattle, toward his daughter, toward a future that suddenly seemed full of possibilities. The highway unfolded before him, mile after mile of asphalt and sky. He drove on, into the afternoon light, carrying with him the memory of a journey that had changed everything. 3 months later, Marcus pulled his Peterbilt into the parking lot of Helen Reeves's small house in Bakersfield. The sunflowers Tyler had told him about towered along the fence line, their bright yellow faces following the sun across the sky. The garden was lush with tomatoes and peppers, evidence of a summer spent growing things instead of running from them. Tyler burst out of the front door before Marcus had even climbed down from the cab, racing across the lawn with a grin that stretched from ear to ear. "Marcus, you came! You really came!" Marcus laughed, catching the boy in a hug. "I told you I would, didn't I? Let me look at you. You've grown about 3 inches since I last saw you." Tyler puffed out his chest proudly. "Grandma says it's all the good food. She's teaching me to cook now. I made cookies yesterday, all by myself. Chocolate chip? Is there any other kind?" Helen appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel and smiling warmly. "Marcus Webb," she called out, "get in here before those cookies disappear. Tyler's been saving them special for you." They sat around Helen's kitchen table, eating cookies that were slightly lopsided but delicious, talking about everything and nothing. Tyler showed Marcus his room, now decorated with posters of his favorite bands and a bookshelf overflowing with novels. He talked about school, about the friends he was making, about the therapist he saw twice a week who was helping him process everything he had been through. "He's doing so well," Helen told Marcus later, while Tyler was in the backyard playing with a neighbor's dog. "There are still hard days, of course. Nightmares sometimes, moments when the fear comes back, but he's healing. Thanks to you, he's got a chance to heal." Marcus shook his head. "Thanks to you. You're the one who fought for him, who never gave up." Helen smiled, her eyes crinkling with warmth. "We both fought for him. Different battles, same war. That's what family does." Marcus blinked at the word. "Family?" Helen reached across the table and patted his hand. "You're part of this family now, Marcus. Whether you like it or not, Tyler adores you. And frankly, so do I. You saved my grandson's life. That makes you one of us." Marcus felt a warmth spread through his chest. He had not had a real family in years, had not felt like he belonged anywhere except behind the wheel of his truck. But sitting in this cozy kitchen, listening to Tyler's laughter floating in from the backyard, he realized that family was not always about blood. Sometimes it was about the connections you made, the people you chose to love and protect. "I like it," he said quietly. "I like it a lot." He stayed for dinner that night, helping Helen in the kitchen while Tyler set the table. They ate spaghetti and garlic bread, talking and laughing like they had known each other for years instead of months. Marcus told stories from the road, tales of strange encounters and beautiful sunsets and the small moments of magic that happened when you least expected them. After dinner, Tyler asked if Marcus would help him with his homework. It was a history project about westward expansion, and Tyler was struggling to understand why people would leave everything behind to travel into the unknown. They sat together on the porch, looking up at the stars, while Marcus tried to explain. "People move for a lot of reasons," he said slowly. "Sometimes they're running from something. Sometimes they're running towards something. Sometimes they just feel like there's got to be more out there, something they're missing, and they can't rest until they find it." "Is that why you became a truck driver?" Tyler asked. "Because you were looking for something?" Marcus considered the question. "I think I was running mostly, from responsibility, from connection, from anything that might tie me down. I thought freedom meant being alone, not answering to anyone. But that's not really freedom, is it?" "No," Marcus agreed. "That's just loneliness with better scenery. Real freedom is choosing to be somewhere, to be with someone. It's knowing you could leave, but staying anyway. Tyler was quiet for a moment. Is that why you came back? To see me? That's exactly why I came back. And I'll keep coming back, Tyler, as long as you want me to. Tyler smiled, that same sunshine smile that had first appeared in the Grand Canyon. I'll always want you to, he said. The months turned into a year, and Marcus found himself making regular detours through Bakersfield, watching Tyler grow taller and stronger and more confident with each visit. The boy started middle school, joined the basketball team, made the honor roll. The nightmares faded, the fear diminished, the wounds slowly healed. Marcus's relationship with Emily improved too. He had driven to Seattle as promised, had met her husband David, had started building the bridge he should have built years ago. They talked on the phone every week now, had video calls on holidays, made plans to meet up whenever his routes took him near the Pacific Northwest. Sandra reached out too, after hearing about Tyler from Emily. They had coffee during one of his layovers in Dallas, a strange and awkward meeting that gradually became something like friendship. She had remarried, was happy, bore no grudges. Marcus found that he was glad for her, genuinely glad, in a way he would not have been capable of a year earlier. The road was still his life, but it was no longer his escape. He drove because he loved it, not because he was running. The miles still unfolded before him, the sunrises still took his breath away, but now he had people waiting for him at the other end. People who mattered. People who would notice if he did not come back. On the 1-year anniversary of the night they met, Marcus and Tyler returned to the Grand Canyon together. Helen came too, making the trip in her ancient Toyota, while Marcus followed in his truck. They stood at the same overlook where Tyler had said goodbye to his mother, watching the sun set over the ancient rocks. I think about that night a lot, Tyler said quietly. The night I asked if you could protect me. I was so scared, Marcus. I didn't think anyone would help me. I thought I was going to disappear, and nobody would ever know or care. Marcus put his arm around the boy's shoulders. I'm glad I found you, Tyler, or maybe you found me. Either way, I think we saved each other. Tyler looked up at him, no longer the terrified child Marcus had met in that truck stop, but a young man beginning to find his way in the world. What do you mean? Marcus thought about how to explain it. A year ago I was just going through the motions. Driving, sleeping, driving some more. I had forgotten why any of it mattered. Then you came along. And you reminded me that life is about more than miles. It's about the people you help along the way, the connections you make, the family you choose. Helen joined them at the railing, slipping her arm through Marcus's. He's right, you know, she said to Tyler. You changed him as much as he changed you. That's how it works with people who matter. We shape each other, make each other better. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and pink. The three of them stood in silence, watching the show, feeling the weight of everything they had been through and everything that lay ahead. Marcus thought about the question that had started it all, the words that had come from a desperate child in a truck stop bathroom. Can you protect me? He had said yes without knowing what it would mean, without understanding how that simple promise would reshape his entire life. But standing here now, with Tyler on one side and Helen on the other, he knew he had made the right choice. The only choice that mattered. Life was not about the destinations, it was about the people you traveled with, the strangers who became friends, the friends who became family, the moments of grace that appeared when you least expected them, changing everything in ways you could never have predicted. A boy had asked a truck driver if he could protect him, and in that moment, 2 lives had been saved. The stars came out one by one over the ancient canyon. Marcus looked up at them and smiled. Somewhere out there, on the highways and byways of America, there were other children in need, other people searching for protection, for connection, for someone who would see them and care. He could not save them all, no one could, but he could keep his eyes open. He could stop when he saw someone in trouble. He could ask if they needed help. That was all any of us could do, really. Show up, pay attention, be willing to let our plans be interrupted by the needs of another human being. The road would still be there tomorrow. There would always be miles to drive, freight to haul, schedules to keep, but there would also be moments like this one, moments of connection, moments of grace. Marcus thought about the long journey that had brought him here, all the miles and years and mistakes. He thought about Sandra and Emily, about the second chances he had been given and the ones he had finally taken. He thought about Helen, about her fierce love for her grandson and her easy acceptance of a worn-out trucker into her family. Most of all, he thought about Tyler, about the scared boy who had become a confident young man, about the question that had changed everything. "Can you protect me?" Yes, Marcus thought, looking at the family he had found in the most unexpected place. Yes, I can. And I always will. They drove back to Bakersfield that night, Helen leading the way in her Toyota, Marcus following in his Peterbilt with Tyler in the passenger seat. The highway stretched before them, familiar and comforting, leading toward home. Tyler fell asleep somewhere around Needles, his head resting against the window just like it had that first night. But there was no fear in his face now, no wariness, no desperation. Just the peaceful expression of a child who knew he was safe, who knew he was loved, who knew he was exactly where he belonged. Marcus drove on through the darkness, the headlights cutting a path through the night. He thought about all the roads he had traveled, all the places he had been, all the things he had seen. He thought about the lonely years and the wasted time, the relationships he had neglected and the opportunities he had missed. But mostly, he thought about the road ahead, the miles yet to come, the people he would meet, the connections he would make, the moments of grace that waited around every curve. The highway came to life around him, filled with other travelers making their own journeys, pursuing their own dreams, running from or toward their own destinies. Marcus felt a kinship with all of them, a connection that transcended the barriers of steel and glass that separated them. We are all travelers, he thought, all of us, moving through this world, trying to find our way home. And sometimes, if we are lucky, we find each other. He glanced at Tyler, still sleeping peacefully in the passenger seat. The boy had found him in a moment of desperation, had asked a question that had changed both their lives. In protecting Tyler, Marcus had found the courage to protect himself, to open his heart again, to let people in. That was the real gift Tyler had given him. Not just a purpose, but a reminder that it was never too late to change, never too late to reach out, never too late to say yes to someone who needed you. The lights of Bakersfield appeared on the horizon, glowing softly in the distance. Home was waiting. Family was waiting. Marcus smiled and pressed on, carrying his precious cargo through the night, toward the light, toward tomorrow, toward all the roads that still lay ahead. 2 years after that night in the truck stop, Marcus Webb made a decision that surprised even himself. He bought a small house in Bakersfield, just 3 blocks from Helen's place. He did not give up trucking entirely, but he cut back his routes, taking only the shorter hauls that let him come home every few days instead of being gone for weeks at a time. Tyler helped him move in, carrying boxes with the enthusiasm of a teenager who had found an unexpected father figure. Helen brought over casseroles and curtains and the kind of practical wisdom that Marcus had been missing for decades. "You sure about this?" Helen asked him one evening as they sat on his new porch watching the sunset. "It is a big change from the life you knew." Marcus nodded slowly. "I've spent 30 years chasing the horizon," he said, "running from everything that scared me. I think it's time I learned how to stay." Tyler appeared around the corner, basketball in hand. "Hey, Marcus, want to shoot some hoops before dinner? The court at the park has lights now." Marcus looked at Helen, who smiled and waved him off. "Go on," she said. "I'll have dinner ready when you get back." They walked to the park together, Tyler dribbling the ball with the easy coordination of youth. He was 14 now, taller than Marcus remembered, his voice cracking occasionally in that awkward way of adolescence, but his eyes were clear, his smile was genuine, and the shadows that had haunted him were mostly gone. "Can I ask you something?" Tyler said as they walked. "Sure. Do you ever regret it? Stopping for me that night?" Marcus stopped walking, turning to face the boy who had changed his life. "Not for a single second," he said firmly. "Meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me, Tyler. You saved my life just as much as I saved yours." Tyler ducked his head, embarrassed but pleased. "My therapist says that's called mutual aid, when two people help each other without realizing it." "Your therapist is a smart person." They reached the basketball court and shot hoops until the light faded, their laughter echoing off the surrounding houses. Neighbors stopped to watch, some of them waving, others joining in for a few shots. Marcus had never been part of a community before, had never known what it felt like to belong somewhere. It was terrifying and wonderful all at once. Walking home afterward, Tyler was quiet for a while. Then he said, "I've been thinking about what I want to do when I grow up." "Yeah? What's that?" "I want to help kids like me. Kids in the foster system. Kids who are scared. Kids who don't have anyone to protect them. Maybe be a social worker or a lawyer or something." Marcus felt a swell of pride so intense it nearly knocked him off his feet. "That's a great goal, Tyler. You'd be amazing at it." Tyler smiled shyly. "I want to be like you," he admitted. "Someone who sees a kid in trouble and doesn't just walk by. Someone who stops and helps." Marcus had to blink hard to keep the tears from falling. "That means more to me than you'll ever know," he said. "But listen, Tyler, you're already that person. You always have been. You survived things that would have broken most adults. You asked for help when you needed it. You let yourself trust again when you had every reason not to. That takes more courage than anything I've ever done." They walked the rest of the way in comfortable silence, the kind that exists between people who have nothing left to prove to each other. Dinner was waiting when they got back, Helen's famous pot roast with all the fixings. They ate together around the table, three people bound not by blood, but by something stronger, by choice, by love, by the moments of grace that had brought them together. After dinner, Marcus called Emily on video chat, introducing her virtually to Helen and Tyler. The two women hit it off immediately, trading recipes and stories, while Tyler showed Emily his latest basketball trophies. Marcus sat back and watched, his heart so full it hurt. "This is what I was missing," he thought. "All those years on the road, all those miles I traveled. This is what I was looking for without knowing it. Connection, family, home." His phone buzzed with a message from his old dispatcher. "Got a short run to Phoenix next week. 3 days, good pay. You in?" Marcus looked around the table at the people he loved, at Helen, who had welcomed him into her home and her heart without hesitation, at Tyler, who had taught him what courage really looked like, at Emily's face on the screen, finally seeing her father as the man he was becoming instead of the man who had let her down. He typed back, "I'm in, but I'll need to be home by Friday. Got a basketball game to watch." The dispatcher's response came with a laughing emoji. "You've gone soft, Webb." "Maybe," Marcus thought, looking at his family. "Or maybe I've finally gotten hard enough to let myself be soft." The years continued to pass, marked by Tyler's graduations and achievements, by Emily's visits and phone calls, by the slow building of a life Marcus had never expected to have. He kept driving, but the road had become a means rather than an end, a way to support the people he loved rather than an escape from the person he was. On the 5th anniversary of that rainy night in Texas, Marcus and Tyler returned to the truck stop where they had met. It looked different now, renovated and updated, but the bones were the same. They ordered coffee and sandwiches and sat in the corner booth remembering. "I was so scared," Tyler said quietly. He was 18 now, just graduated from high school, headed to college in the fall to study social work. "I thought my life was over. I thought no one would ever help me." Marcus nodded. "I was scared too," he admitted. scared of getting involved, scared of caring, scared of everything changing. But you helped me anyway. Best decision I ever made." Tyler reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn photograph. It was the picture of Helen, the one he had shown Marcus that first night, the one his grandmother had sent for his birthday, along with $20 and a letter telling him to be brave. "I've carried this with me every day since," Tyler said. "It reminds me that there are good people in the world. People who fight for the ones they love. People who stop when they see someone in trouble." Marcus took the photograph gently, looking at Helen's kind face, remembering the moment Tyler had first shown it to him. "You don't need a picture to remember that," he said. "You are one of those people now." Tyler smiled, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "Only because someone showed me how." They finished their meal and walked out to the parking lot where Marcus's Peterbilt sat gleaming in the afternoon sun. He had offered to drive Tyler to college in a few weeks, a final road trip before the next chapter of both their lives began. "Hey, Marcus," Tyler said as they climbed into the cab. "Yeah? Thank you. For everything. For stopping that night. For taking a chance on a scared kid. For showing me what family really means." Marcus started the engine, feeling its familiar rumble vibrate through his bones. He thought about all the miles they had traveled together, all the roads they had shared, all the ways they had changed each other. "Thank you, Tyler," he said, "for asking the question that saved my life." Tyler looked at him curiously. "What question?" Marcus smiled as he guided the truck onto the highway, pointing west toward California, toward home, toward all the roads that still lay ahead. "Can you protect me?" he said. 3 words that changed everything. The highway stretched before them, endless and full of possibility. 2 travelers, bound by fate and choice and love, heading into the future together. Behind them, the truck stop grew smaller in the mirror, just another landmark on a journey that had no end. Ahead of them, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange and pink. And somewhere, on all the highways of America, there were other boys and girls waiting to be found, waiting for someone to stop, waiting for someone to care, waiting for someone to answer the question that burned in their hearts. "Can you protect me?" Marcus did not know if he would find them. He did not know what challenges lay ahead, what roads he would travel, what moments of grace awaited him around the next curve, but he knew this: he would keep his eyes open. He would stop when he saw someone in trouble. He would ask if they needed help, because that was what it meant to be human, to see the need in another person's eyes and respond with love instead of fear, to open your heart even when it was easier to keep it closed, to say yes when everything in you wanted to say no. The road called to him as it always had, but now he understood what it was really asking: not to run, not to escape, but to show up, to pay attention, to be present, to protect. Marcus Webb pressed the accelerator and felt the great truck surge forward, carrying him and Tyler into the gathering dusk. The miles unwound beneath their wheels, familiar and strange all at once. Home was waiting. Family was waiting. And somewhere out there, on the endless highways of America, grace was waiting too. All he had to do was stay open to it. All he had to do was say yes. The truck roared on through the night, a small point of light moving through the darkness, heading west toward tomorrow. And in the passenger seat, Tyler Reeves smiled and closed his eyes, dreaming of all the people he would help someday. All the boys and girls waiting to be found, all the questions waiting to be answered, all the lives waiting to be changed by one simple act of courage. "Can you protect me?" Yes, Tyler thought as sleep took him. Yes, I can, and I will. The morning sun rose over Bakersfield 3 weeks later, casting long shadows across the campus of California State University. Tyler stood at the entrance to his dormitory, his belongings piled on the sidewalk around him, his heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and fear. Marcus had driven him here as promised, the Peterbilt looking somewhat out of place among the compact cars and SUVs that crowded the parking lot. Helen had come too, riding in the passenger seat, while Tyler slept in the berth behind the cab, making the journey one last time as a family. "You sure you've got everything?" Helen asked, adjusting Tyler's collar for the 5th time. "Your winter clothes are in the blue bag. And don't forget to call me every Sunday, and eat something other than pizza, for goodness sake." "Grandma," Tyler laughed, gently taking her hands, "I'll be fine, I promise." Helen's eyes glistened with tears. "I know you will," she said softly. I'm going to miss you so much." Tyler hugged her tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume, the same scent that had comforted him through countless nightmares and difficult days. "You saved me, Grandma," he whispered. "I'll never forget that." Helen pulled back, cupping his face in her weathered hands. "You saved yourself, Tyler. You had the courage to ask for help, to trust again, to believe that things could get better. That's all you. I'm just glad I got to be part of it." Marcus stood nearby, giving them space, but close enough to be present. He had been quiet during the drive, lost in his own thoughts about endings and beginnings. Tyler turned to him, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "I don't know how to say goodbye," he admitted. Marcus smiled, the lines around his eyes crinkling with warmth. "Then don't. This isn't goodbye, Tyler. It's just, see you later. I'll be back in 3 weeks for the Parents' Weekend thing." "Already got it on my calendar." "Parents' Weekend," Tyler repeated, a smile spreading across his face. "Yeah, I'd like that." They embraced, and Marcus felt the boy's arms wrap around him with a strength that had not been there 5 years ago. Tyler had grown in so many ways, from a terrified child hiding in a truck stop to a confident young man ready to face the world. "I'm proud of you," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "More proud than I can say." "I learned from the best," Tyler replied. They separated, and Tyler gathered his belongings, hoisting his backpack onto his shoulders and grabbing the handles of his 2 suitcases. He took one last look at the people who had become his family, at the grandmother who had never stopped fighting for him, and the truck driver who had stopped when no one else would. "I'm going to make you proud," he said, "both of you. I'm going to help kids like me, kids who think no one cares, kids who are afraid to ask for help. I'm going to show them that there are people in this world who will stop, who will listen, who will protect them." Marcus felt his heart swell with pride and love. "You already have, Tyler, just by being who you are." Tyler nodded once, then turned and walked toward his new life, his steps steady and sure. At the entrance to the dormitory, he paused and looked back, raising one hand in a final wave. Marcus and Helen waved back, watching until he disappeared through the doors. They stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of the transition settling over them. "He's going to be okay," Helen said finally, her voice soft but certain. "Better than okay," Marcus agreed. "He's going to be amazing." They walked back to the truck together, their footsteps slow and measured. The campus buzzed with activity around them, students moving in, families saying goodbye, a new generation beginning their journeys. "What now?" Helen asked, as Marcus helped her into the cab. Marcus considered the question. He thought about the road stretching ahead, the miles yet to travel, the people yet to meet. "Now," he said, climbing into the driver's seat, "we go home, and in 3 weeks we come back, and we keep coming back as many times as he needs us." Helen smiled, reaching over to pat his hand. "You're a good man, Marcus Webb." "I'm trying to be," he said. "Better late than never, right?" The engine roared to life, and Marcus guided the truck out of the parking lot, leaving the campus behind, but carrying its meaning with them. The highway welcomed them like an old friend, familiar and enduring. Marcus settled into the rhythm of the drive, the hum of the tires on asphalt, creating a soothing background to his thoughts. Helen dozed in the passenger seat, tired from the emotional morning. Marcus let her sleep, content with the silence and his own reflections. He thought about the arc of his life, the winding road that had brought him here, all the miles he had driven, all the loads he had hauled, all the years he had spent running from himself. And then one rainy night, a scared boy in a truck stop had asked him a question that changed everything. "Can you protect me?" 3 words that had cracked open his carefully constructed defenses. 3 words that had reminded him what it meant to be human. 3 words that had given him back his life. He thought about Emily, about the relationship they were slowly rebuilding. She had met Tyler at Christmas, had welcomed him into the family without hesitation. They talked regularly now, shared meals when Marcus's roots brought him near Seattle, made plans for holidays and birthdays. The distance between them was shrinking slowly but surely, one conversation at a time. He thought about Sandra, about the coffee dates that had become a regular occurrence, about the friendship that had emerged from the ashes of their marriage. She had forgiven him, and more importantly, she had helped him forgive himself. He thought about all the truckers he had met over the years, the ones who were still running, still hiding, still convinced that the road was better than the alternative. He wished he could tell them what he had learned, could show them that connection was not a weakness, but a strength. Maybe he would. Maybe that was the next chapter of his story. Talking to others, sharing what he had discovered, helping them find their way home, the way Tyler had helped him find his. The miles slipped away beneath the wheels, the landscape shifting from agricultural plains to rolling hills to the familiar streets of Bakersfield. Marcus felt a warmth in his chest as the town came into view, the place that had somehow become home. He pulled the truck into his driveway, the engine settling into silence. Helen stirred beside him, blinking awake. "We're home?" she asked. "We're home," Marcus confirmed. They climbed down from the cab, the afternoon sun warm on their faces. Helen's little house was visible down the street, the sunflowers in her garden bobbing in the breeze. "Come for dinner later?" Helen asked. "I'm making pot roast." Marcus smiled. Wouldn't miss it. He watched her walk away, then turned to his own house, small but sturdy, filled with photographs and memories and the evidence of a life rebuilt. Inside, he made a cup of coffee and sat on the porch, watching the neighborhood go about its business. Kids played in yards, dogs barked, cars came and went. Ordinary life happening all around him. He pulled out his phone and composed a text to Tyler. "Made it home safe. Grandma's making pot roast. Wish you were here, but proud of you for being where you need to be. Call any time." The response came almost immediately. "Already made 2 friends. Guy across the hall is from Texas. Told him about you. He thinks truckers are cool. Miss you already. Talk Sunday?" Marcus smiled and typed back, "Sunday it is. Love you, Tyler." The reply was 3 simple words that carried the weight of 5 years and 1,000 miles. "Love you too." He set down the phone and looked out at the street, at the life he had built from the rubble of the one he had destroyed. It was not perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was real, and it was his, and it was filled with people who loved him and whom he loved in return. The road would always call to him. That would never change. But now he understood that the road was not an escape from life, but a part of it. Every mile he drove, every load he hauled was connected to something larger. To the people waiting for those goods, to the economy that kept the country running, to the vast network of travelers and workers and dreamers who made America what it was. And at the end of every journey, there was home. There was Helen's pot roast, and Tyler's phone calls and Emily's video chats. There was the community he had joined, the friends he had made, the life he had created. "Can you protect me?" Yes, Marcus thought, looking out at the world with new eyes. Yes, I can, and I will. Not just Tyler, but everyone I meet. I will see them. I will stop. I will ask if they need help, because that was what it meant to be human. To carry each other's burdens, to share each other's joys, to walk together through the darkness until the light returned. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange and pink. Marcus watched it sink below the horizon, feeling grateful for the day, for the journey, for the life he had been given the chance to live. Tomorrow would bring new roads, new challenges, new opportunities for connection. But tonight he would eat pot roast with Helen and call Tyler and maybe even reach out to Emily. Tonight he would rest in the knowledge that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Home. The word had never sounded so sweet. Marcus Webb finished his coffee, stood up from the porch, and walked inside to get ready for dinner. The night was young, and family was waiting, and somewhere out there on the endless highways of America, grace was still unfolding in ways he could not yet imagine. All he had to do was stay open to it. All he had to do was say yes, and he would, again and again, for as long as he had breath in his body, because that was what love was, really, just saying yes to the hard things and the easy things, the joyful things and the painful things. Yes to the scared boy in the truck stop. Yes to the grandmother who never gave up. Yes to the daughter reaching out across years of silence. Yes to life in all its messy, beautiful, heartbreaking glory. Marcus Webb had spent 30 years saying no, running away, keeping his distance. Now he understood the power of a different answer. Yes, I can protect you. Yes, I will help. Yes, you matter. Yes. That single word had changed everything. And it would continue to change everything, one moment at a time, one person at a time, one road at a time. The night settled over Bakersfield, soft and warm and full of promise. Stars emerged one by one, twinkling down on the truck driver who had finally found his way home. And somewhere in a college dormitory 3 hours away, Tyler Reeves looked up at those same stars and smiled, knowing that he was loved, knowing that he was safe, knowing that he was ready for whatever came next. They had saved each other, he and Marcus. And now they would spend the rest of their lives paying it forward, one act of kindness at a time, one moment of grace at a time, one yes at a time. The story was not ending. It was just beginning.